Hello everybody, in this video this engine is going to get a lot of upgrades, and most notably it is going to be getting a titanium connecting rod. Yes, you read the title correctly, it is getting a titanium connecting rod in this video. So stay tuned and watch the full video. Okay, so after the events of the last video, our intake manifold kind of bent and warped, so that's going to have to be made out of metal. So I'm going to have to make that out of metal. I'm going to have to make this thing out of metal, and then whatever else metal parts I need, I'm going to try to make in this video. Alrighty, so I just got this flange done for the intake manifold, and it actually turned out pretty good. The hole is kind of triangle shaped, but I drilled it out of a solid chunk, drilled all the holes, and then I grinded the edges down, and it worked way better. Now I have an usable piece here. Okay, well this little plate turned out pretty good, so now it's time to weld on this chunk of pipe. Okay, so here's the front part done. This is what's going to actually bolt onto the head. And I got this thing all nice and machined on my lathe. And everything's looking good for this so far. Now I just have to take down this weld. Okay, well right there is the metal intake manifold made. I got to put some RTV silicone on it just so it completely seals it up. But it turned out amazing, and it's actually really straight. Random package arrived in the mail today. Wasn't sure what it was because I looked this morning. The PCBWay shipment was in Illinois. We're in Minnesota, and here it is. Titanium connecting rod. Well, here's the titanium connecting rod. It looks amazing, and those bearings are like perfect, basically. But the titanium connecting rod turned out amazing. It looks awesome, and thank you so much to PCBWay for supplying these. They're going to work very, very nice on this engine. Here is the connecting rod all assembled. Everything looks amazing, and the surface finish is super good, and it's super shiny. Bearings fit nicely. All that's left to do is install it in the engine. PCBWay has been a huge help with my engine project, and if you have any projects you're doing and need a little help with, PCBWay has everything you would ever need. They have CNC machining all the way up to full 5-axis CNC machining, all types of metal 3D printing. They have sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, and they can do metal 3D print titanium. They can metal 3D print pretty much every metal you'll want, and they're super easy to work with. It's an awesome shop, and I very much enjoy working with them. It's awesome to work with them. After the last runs, the inside of the cylinder looks really good, and all the buildup for some reason cleared itself. You can also tell that the piston rings, they are way more seated. And for everybody asking, last time I did install the rings 120 degrees apart. Where's this one at? Yeah, that one's right there, and this one's back over right here. So I did install them, but they're definitely more worn in, which is probably why it was increasing compression. Alright, so I've got an idea to make this so that hopefully it won't melt now that it has a titanium connecting rod that'll last for a while. Let's take a look in here. Ooh. Alright, so the plastic is in rough condition, but I'll show you guys what I'm going to try to do. Alright, so the camshaft is covered with shredded plastic, and the seat right here is completely worn away. But here's my idea. I've 3D printed another one with bearings, so that don't have the plastic on there, but it has a piece of cork gasket because it's a really, really good thermal insulator. So I'm going to put a piece of cork gasket under it, and then it'll take a lot longer for it to melt on the bottom. Well, here's the head off the engine. I have to resand the valve because when I had to remove the valve nut, it actually spun the valve and the aluminum galled. But I figure this is the best time as any to measure the compression ratio. What do we got there? 4.5, and now let's see what it is on the down. Okay, let's see what it is at bottom dead center. 57 flat. In the center there. Okay, we've got 1 millimeter for the head gasket thickness. So now we add the millimeter for the head gasket, and we get a 10.5 to 1. That's still pretty high. Okay, I've shaved off 1.8 millimeters roughly off the piston. So now, time to reassemble it and recheck the compression ratio. To remeasure the compression ratio. 6.35. 58.75. Right, so we add our 1 millimeter for the head gasket thickness, and we get a 8.1 to 1. That's pretty good actually right there. That'll work. Alrighty, so here is the engine completely ready for testing with the new camshaft holder, washers that are made out of the cork so that the screws don't melt it. Ignition is set perfectly, and everything, the valve seems to be sealing all right. It'll have to be broken in a little bit, but everything seems like it's completely ready to test now. So, my engine actually has a new bottom piece of the crankcase because I wasn't filming. This happened a little while ago, but I was starting it for my friend, and it actually twisted this and broke that off. So that's not going to work bolting it on like that, because I'm pretty sure that's just going to happen again. So I made this piece. Whole thing will bolt onto that piece, and the engine, there's no way it'll be able to break that. Okay, here's the engine with the base plate on, and I added a little bit of cork to that because actually last time it started to barely melt that, which isn't good. But now it's time to bring it out to the shop and test it and see how it works. Manifold. Like choke. Maybe it needs more fuel, or maybe it just needs to warm up. Close, as long as it won't. And it did that again. Awesome. Okay, so I retapped this screw that holds the thing on. I retapped that for M4, and then I retightened the bottom sprocket, and now it's time to test it again. I wonder if removing the exhaust would help at all. Let's remove the exhaust, see what it does. That seems to help for some reason. Why does it do that? Why did we lose all compression? Well, it's firing, which is very interesting. But it's got nothing, because if I go to here and all of a sudden I can hear it fire, it shoots out the intake, or it shoots out the carburetor. Oh! stop. I messed with it. Come on, I'm gonna get a little bit of more life out of you. Way too long. Okay, so it's the next day and I have adjusted the camshaft timing because I think I advanced it too far, but reducing the compression ratio is a bad idea because I wasn't actually at a 10.5 to 1. Look at here, so right there is where it starts building compression. It's almost halfway up the cylinder, which means it's actually firing at like a 5 to 1. So yeah, I messed up there, but I guess I'm going to see if it runs now with the adjustments to the timing. That's a little high for my liking. I gotta turn down the... I don't get why this thing is acting so funny. Keep trying to run though. Yeah, I have no clue what that is. Oh, that was a face full of gas. Oh, so I'm gonna try starting it again. Maybe, just maybe. was trying its hardest to run. That thing was trying so hard to run. We have a head gasket leak, exhaust leak, this thing's completely melted, intake manifold leak, the crankcase is melting, the chain tensioner is melting. This is actually really cool though. Alright, so I'm back in the house with the engine, and there is a record attempt that I did before this, but it's so long that I'm going to do it at the end of the video because most people probably aren't going to want to watch the entire thing. But I think it's only right to do a teardown and inspection of this engine to see what happened after all that run. I did not include nearly as much as this thing ran at all. I probably have a total time of well over 10 minutes of runtime in this video, and this has all been in the past 2 days. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do a full teardown and inspect everything, see what it looks like. Alright, here's the engine disassembled. The connecting rod still moves nice and free on the crank pin. No visible wear in there when I move it over to the side. The hole in the titanium connecting rod looks really good, and the aluminum wrist pin, surprisingly, it didn't gal at all, so that's a good sign. The piston rings are superseded. You can see they're starting to get shiny. There is still some spots on the other side, like right there on the top ring, where the groove hasn't, or the piston ring hasn't started to wear in. It hasn't galled on the sides. It's just got some minor scrapes. And then this cylinder looks really good on the inside. Completely clean, no buildup, and the valves seem to be seating all right. Cylinder wall looks great, and everything seems to be good except for the fact that this thing drank all of its oil. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to stay and watch the full record runtime. I got a nice record out of this engine with the new parts. Thank you so much to PCBWay. I think I've got everything almost tuned in good for record attempt number 2. Engine's starting to warm up, which is bad. I didn't want it to. I wanted it to try to last as long as I can, but if it's starting to heat up before I get the record run, that won't happen. Let's see. That is definitely a new record by a long shot. Ho, that is awesome. Really hot. Really hot. Is this melted? Oh yeah, it's melted. Let's turn it to where the exhaust valve is up, and then we'll put some pressure on it just so that when it hardens again after it cools down, it's where I want it. There we go. That's a new record by a long shot. That was a really, really long, really good run, and it's holding good, consistent idle. There is something wrong with the carburetor, though, because it only wants to run with choke. But I think that's going to wrap it up for the video. That's a new record. That's what I wanted for the video. Thank you, guys. If you guys go back and watch the beginning of when I started testing, this thing was almost full. This thing's drinking a lot of fuel. I can't believe how long it's running for. This is awesome. Okay, after all of those runs, let's see what the oil looks like coming out of the engine. Hey, there's no oil in it. Well, I put 50 milliliters of nice fresh oil in it when I started.